All right, folks, there's one talk standing between you and lunch, but never fear, because it's going to be fantastic. This is Ben Hughes. He does security at Etsy. As he said in his Ignite at Velocity, I do security. You can tell by the hair. That's not a very good Ben accent. But
I'm foreign. It's not my fault.
No, I just can't do the accent. But anyway, the Etsy's expertise and knowledge and implementation of the DevOps practice is pretty well known. If you're not familiar with it, go to codiscraft.com and you'll become familiar with it pretty darn quick. But Ben, being in security, actually has some really interesting things to say about the intersection between what he does and what the dev and ops in Etsy do. So,
what have we got there?
How are we doing on audio-visual? Excellent.
No, I need my notes. Yeah.
So anyway, let me tell you, I went to Velocity last year. I didn't know anyone. I knew Sasha. Sasha's here somewhere, right? There she is. And Sasha introduced me to some really nice people, and I kind of gravitated to the other ones with pink and blue hair, because I was like, these are my people. And it turns out these are the Etsy people, and they're fantastic. So any place, like GovDelivery was saying, if you can work and look however you want and just be awesome, you know.
No pressure. I'll be awesome. How are we all enjoying DevOps Days MSP? This is really cool. Good work to everyone for doing this. As you can tell, I'm speaker number 4. So who am I? Hi, I'm Ben Hughes. You may remember me from such films as Ben Talks About Security and Hair Dye Disasters 2, Root-ageddon. I manage the network security team at Etsy, where we deal with 2,000 real non-cloud servers and look after laptops of over 600 employees. Hugely grateful for my team for letting me not be in the office, going to meetings, and being here enjoying Minneapolis. I'm going to try and do 2 talks in this because that's better value for money, so I'll talk really quickly and let you go to lunch, because I don't want hungry people killing me. So the first one is security. Where did it all go wrong? Everyone went out, bought a firewall with an amazing film, and you've spent money at a vendor, you're like, yeah, we're all secure now. But something changed in the 2000s where everyone bought firewalls and thought they were done and they were protected, but then this cloud thing happened. I don't know if you've heard about that. The weather here is suggesting you haven't. So you've got all these servers that are now on the public internet and they don't have firewalls in front of them because cloud makes that really, really hard to do. But ignore that, we're not talking about that. The main thing I'm talking about is, does anyone here have a Mac laptop? This works way better in San Francisco. But all these laptops without Apple logos on it confuses me. So you've got these Mac laptops, and they're basically Unix boxes, which you just connect to random Wi-Fi networks like this one, or whatever, which you wouldn't do with your servers, but I'm guessing your laptops talk to your servers. You can see how this goes well. Which slide's that? Yeah, Macs don't get viruses. That's kind of got proven. Last February, there were some bad things if you were Apple or Facebook. Not Google, because they caught it and were smug about it. But Java is not doing so well. Flash, not so great. And these will run on your laptops, and you blindly trust them to every web page you go to. And then your laptops get owned. And then everything else gets owned from there. This is where I get quoted and terrible things happen. But so your laptop gets owned, and that's how people get into your networks now. The idea that people go through the front door of attacking your web server it happens, but it just doesn't happen that much because that's where everyone bought monitoring for, whereas no one monitors what's running on their laptop. This is real world exploits. So I'm not saying you have to rush out and buy anything like Carbon Black or FireEye, which probably doesn't work on Mac anyway, but there are some Windows laptops. But given a few minutes on someone's laptops, you can own anyone's infrastructure because laptops are incredibly trusted and no one's really looking at them. So there's this cool website called Java zeroday, and this slide's out of date. Is Tuesday, Oracle released 10 updates that are all remote code on your laptop. And they haven't updated the website because they've got better things to do than actually track all the updates to Oracle. actually says 364 now when I looked, but it was easier to just doctor the slide than do it properly. So zero day is like the thing where there's no vulnerability announced or there's no patch released for it, but someone has an exploit to go and own things, and that's what gets all the media attention. Like the NSA might have a few because they have more budget than you, and then there are companies you can pay lots of money to who will deliver you 0 days for you to go and attack other large multinationals or whatever. But like, you don't need to care about those. These are unknown attacks, and the thing with unknown attacks is you don't know about them, otherwise they'd be known attacks, and then you know about them. So like, all the worrying that people do and all the white papers that are released about defending yourself from 0 day, it's like, yeah, that's selling you things. No one wants to be sold things. So what can you do about them? And like, for the most part, you can just not worry about them. Because like, if you look at pretty much, this is just the best thing ever, because this is 2 phases of my life, swapping between alcohol and coffee, depending on the time of the day. There's why are other liquids invented? But the serious side of this is, like, other than a very few people, like 0 days are not a real thing you have to worry about. The more important things that you have to worry about, other than alcohol and coffee, is treating the symptoms. If you've ever been, your house has ever been robbed, you don't care that they got in through the window per se. You come home and go, I used to have a TV there. Now I have some wall. You're not like, oh, it looks like the window got broken here, so they must have used, yeah, that's like, fix your window, definitely fix your window, but you more care about what they did afterwards. This analogy actually comes down to, you may or may not really care, to a degree, how they got in. You care what they did after that. So like, if someone sends you an email with, like, definitely run this thing, it's called Funny Cats. Who doesn't love funny cats? And someone goes, I love funny cats. Double clicks on it, and then like, suddenly something runs on their laptop. Like, that will keep happening, because who doesn't love funny cats? You can't tell people, you're not allowed to love funny cats anymore, because they'd leave. That's the reasonable thing to do. You have to go like, so if you do run the thing called Funny Cats, we have to spot that you've ran it, and then what happens after that, rather than denying people access to the amusing world of felines. So you care about, like, why is BinSH running on your web server as the Apache user? Because that probably shouldn't happen. Why is your web server trying to SSH to other hosts? Like, web servers don't tend to do that. By the words web and server, they're meant to serve web, not SSH to random place. If you have SSH to random place hosts, you would name them accordingly. You can do things like use SE Linux. You can buy IDSs, use an open source one, because otherwise you're just burning money. Yeah, like SE Linux gets a bad reputation, mainly from me when drunk on Twitter, because I survived it like 10 years ago. It's a lot better now, as Major Hayden at Rackspace will shout at me for. And you don't even have to run it in blocking mode. You can just have SE Linux go, so the web server's trying to access these things that you said it probably shouldn't access. Then you throw that in a log, and then later we get onto the logging section of this talk, and I join those together. So you don't have to run SE Linux in the, now nothing works, because everyone who's used SE Linux or logged into a default CentOS box with SE Linux is like, why can't I run LS? Oh, SE Linux is enabled. I'll turn that off and reboot it. Suddenly my machine is a machine again. But it's much better. Please put an intern on it. It will be fine. But still do patch things. I'm not saying don't patch things. That's a terrible idea. Even if Oracle takes 6 months, still patch things and disable Java if you can. We're lucky at Etsy. We were able to completely disable Java throughout our entire enterprise, other than one jump host that we use to talk to ILOs, the remote management things our ops team use, because they require Java, because they were written in the 1800s. So you just, like Citrix or No Machine VNC to the jump host and then go from there. So we just have this very nice contained point where Java can run, rather than everyone's laptop having Java and blindingly trusting the internet. Please really patch things, especially Java. And if you have Flash, there's click to play. Chrome lets you not even click to play, so you have to right-click and go run this plugin this one time. If you can control your entire organization laptop deployment, you can inadvertently set Chrome to have a cookie to go use HTML5 videos for YouTube rather than Flash videos for YouTube. And then mysteriously, no one cares about Flash anymore because they can still use YouTube. And there's not really that many other reasons to use Flash. Like, Flash pages now get listed lower in Google because who wants a Flash intro? Do you remember that period of the internet where every site had a Flash intro? Aren't you glad we've moved on from there? Now it's just like ridiculous scrolling and your CPU going through the roof because of HTML5. But, you know, it's better than it just like sitting at 100% now. So there's an operations adage that if it's not monitored, it's not in production. We all know that isn't true because we've seen things in production that aren't monitored. But if it's not logged, did it really happen? And depending on which side of the fence you are, like if you're breaking into stuff, is it logged? Did it happen? Well, yeah, it did. I have root in your box. Cool. But I'm guessing from a defensive point, if it isn't logged, do you know it happened? And logging's got a lot different. When I was a wee lad, I'm older than I pretend to look, we had 1,500 websites running on a single web server. And they all had an IP for every website. It was that long ago. Whereas at Etsy, we have one website-ish, and we have hundreds of web servers. That's a lot more logs. And logs are bigger as well because we put all our A/B testing stuff in logs. And it's no longer this convenient, nice little log line. It's now like this log line, which sucks when you have an 11-inch laptop, but that's my own doing. And user agents, they're longer now. That was a terrible idea. So you only have a limited number of eyes. And centralized logging, if you're not having centralized logging, then just leave now, go do it. I will wait. There's no point in me continuing unless you've got centralized logging. It's pretty much the key part of how so much of Etsy security runs. We feed logs from everything into into an expensive log searching tool of your choice. No one knows which one that could be. And there are other ones available. There are multiple logging things. And if you're using Chef or Puppet or any of the more youth-like focused ones like Ansible or Salt, then there are so many cookbooks or recipes or modules to make centralized locking? NFS flashback, sorry. Logging happen that it's just easy. So this is an example of one of our alerts that we have. Does that show on this? I was terrified of getting this in the right size. Yeah, you can read that, even with my eyes. And this is like looking at our access logs. Have there been a high number of failed login attempts in 30 minutes? And that's just, this is how I don't have a job working as a designer. And this one just shows the simplicity of, like, have there been a lot of wrong password attempts coming from a single IP, and then it geo-IPs them, throws up the username, their host, where their house is, and how many times it's happened, and then we, in the security team, get an email going, someone's being an idiot. Either they can't remember their password, or they're trying to break into something. And without centralized logging, we wouldn't be able to have this. And we have like our VPN logs, so if people suddenly log in and they're like based in Brooklyn, and suddenly they're logging in from the Ukraine, we get an email about that, because that's probably not good. And often that just means they're on vacation, and then we go and speak to their manager, and they're like, they're on vacation, and then we calm down for a bit. But we've also had we had a period using the credit card scram kind of style of, has someone just traveled 600 miles between two logins? that seems quite unlikely, even if they're still in the US. And that worked pretty well. It means the inbox zero is now a dream, because we have a lot of email alerts. But that's a small price to pay for knowing what's going on in your infrastructure. These will be on the speaker deck, so you don't need to memorize these, but like logstash.net, pretty easy to remember. Once you have logs and are either paying Splunk a lot of money, or you're using something else, or you just like syslogging to a central place and using grep, which is what a number of our engineers still do because they're ops people. And they think it's quicker to go to the log host and just grep things than use like billions of dollars worth of infrastructure, but whatever. Once you have centralized logging, then I highly recommend two-factoring all the things. Back in the late 90s, everyone had those RSA secure ID fobs. The secure bit turns out not true. The ID bit, it's more just a random number, or pseudo-random number, not as pseudo as you think. The only bit that's true in that is the RSA, and they host a terrible conference. So I'm a big fan of Duo. They have a really nice iOS and Android app, and you tie it to your phone, and when you log into things, it pops up on your phone going, you're trying to log into a thing. Would you like to log into a thing? And you probably press yes if you want to. I couldn't be more of a fan of them. Other ones do exist. Authy, who are clearly from 5 years ago, as they have a Y at the end of their name. Google Authenticator is really good. I'm getting microphone feedback. Great. And we use this for our VPNs. We use this for SSH. They output logs, so we feed that back into our log system. Like Google's one's free. Duo is free for if you just want to try it. I run Duo on my own stuff at home because I'm afraid of going outside. If you have like corporate Twitter accounts, then I would definitely recommend turning on two-factor for those, unless you're as funny as the Onion, because if you're as funny as the Onion, you don't need to worry, because when they got taken over by the SEA, it was actually really funny. But if you're not as funny as the Onion, then two-factor your like social media accounts. This tiny thing is called a Yubikey. It means you don't even have to have your phone. It's a hardware cryptographic token that you leave in your laptop and you push, and that ties to my Duo account, so I don't even need to go to the effort of taking my phone out my pocket to log into things, because that's how lazy my San Franciscan life is. And they're awesome. I can't recommend them enough. They're small enough to swallow, as you can see, and the big long string at the top is the cryptographic string they send. This is one, and it changes every time, and it's time limited, but this is one my coworker pasted into IRC, so I thought it would be fair to use that as a title. Hands up who stopped phishing? Has anyone stopped phishing, like as an industry? You're not going to stop phishing. Phishing is a thing that will keep happening in the same way you still occasionally get spam. But that is actually not that big a deal. To use a quote from the former Etsy Director of Security, Zane Lackey, if you go from 36% on fire to 24% on fire, you're still on fire. He owes me a beer every time I use that one, I'm sure. So like if you have 100 emails clicked on with funny cats, and you're down to 10, you're like, yes, we saved 90 machines being owned. Yeah, but 10 still got owned. That doesn't matter. The more important thing to do is to get it reported when suspicious emails come in. So we have it like as soon as anyone sees anything sketchy, they just forward it straight to the security team, and we're like, cool, your laptop's probably been owned. We'll be right over. Or don't worry about that. That's just some spam. You can ignore that. Try not to buy anything they're selling. You can incentivize this with, like, we recommend Etsy gift cards. Target, you should definitely use Etsy gift cards for this. And like, yes, you've reported something here, have like $5 or $10 gift card. and that's worked well. I am going to have to talk a lot quicker. Does this play? Oh, come on, you're an amazing video. I don't know how to make this work. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, no, it gets cuter. It gets cuter. Oh. Magic. I'm going to have to really talk really quickly now. OK. On to the second half of the talk where I have to speak at this pace because I only have 11 minutes left. Silo smashing in one, no. So you've got dev and ops, and now there's this one thing called DevOps. I hear people are doing conferences on that now. Thank you, Patrick. Wouldn't it be great if you had like one fewer of those? Because there's still other parts of your organization, like QA are allowed in, DBAs are allowed in, maybe security too, because like security should work with dev and ops. Just an idea. And this can be done like regardless of your size. So Chris and Robin O'Boyle did a really good talk, and they're from Veracode on doing real-world agile software development life cycles. So kind of agile security. And if you're small, then you can just hire someone into one of those teams who has a security background, and that is you can just start small. As everything that works for DevOps works for Dev Security Ops, DBA Ops, QSA, anything. Yeah, more acronyms. The thing is, those security are people too. They don't always seem that way, because I'm sure everyone has a story about a terrible security team that went, you can't do that. Why? Because no. You're like, that's a really cool story. How about we work together on this? Hug it out. They don't seem to be like that, and security is one of the few industries that has genuine adversaries. There are like state-sponsored people trying to break into your company to steal all your company things to sell them in other parts of the world. If I spoke Mandarin, I could give the exact same talk in China about the US, but that's a separate thing. I'm English, so I can't learn languages. And I'm sure like QA and ops feel that developers are genuinely trying to break all their stuff, or like, developers think that ops are always attacking them for what they do. Yeah, not quite the same level, but that like security does need to get over themselves. If there are any security people in the room, I won't make a target joke, I promise. Then they need to get over themselves and work together with the rest of the organization. I should start giving this at security conferences so they know what I'm talking about. Here's a graph, so I must be correct. This is again from Veracode. And it shows that the people who write the least secure software, the second smallest blue bit is security. So anytime a security person says, well, developers write terrible software, it's like, they actually write more secure software than security people. So you can be quiet. Like, commercial IDSs are a well-known treasure trove of zeroday, and like all virus software is actually, you're more insecure running virus software than not running virus software, because there are so many security vulnerabilities in virus software. So you'll feel really secure. Good. That really lifted the mood. So the DevOps gospel of like, we should all meet, hug it out, and like talk about our feelings. Yeah, meeting early, but getting people involved, not having security as gatekeepers is a really important thing. That's something we try very hard to do at Etsy. Like, as soon as you say to someone, the last time I spoke to security, they shouted at me, you don't have a security team anymore. You have a team that everyone avoids and tries to get around. That same way, like, devs will go and write cookbooks to get around things. Yeah, they will, but like, the whole company will get around things of like, I have a virus appearing on my laptop. I better not tell security. You no longer have a security team. So one way we do this at Etsy is we have skill sharing, where we have regular meetups, which everyone's invited to go and talk about skills, show off things that like we've done in former lives or current lives. Everyone's invited. When we go to security conferences, I've been actively trying to get non-security team members coming to security conferences, because that's more important than, in many ways, the security people going to security conferences. They already know about the conferences. That doesn't help anyone. We had an internal hack week, which isn't, in a security sense, what we mean by hack week. We mean the kind of Dev Hack Week, where we all hacked on security things. We did talks. Everyone presented on stuff they did. Lots of Q&A sessions. We have a thing called bootcamping, which I'm sure most companies have, or at least have heard of, where as soon as anyone starts in any at Etsy, they don't start in their department like you would think would make sense. They start in random other departments. And the benefits we get from that is you make really good bonds with other parts of the department. So now, from my boot camps, I know who to go to talk to in other parts of the org because I've built a rapport with them. And it means in security, when we get boot campers, we get people who can write web apps that aren't CGI bins from the 90s or know more SQL than select star, because none of us do. So it's a really good two-way street. And security can borrow lots from the world of DevOps, which I hear is a thing now. Although I think now we're in the post-DevOps world. That's my cool new phrase, because everyone is not allowed to say DevOps, so it's now post-DevOps. You putting post before something does make it hipster. Like post-punk means music after punk. So all music is post-classical, but like, you see Bach getting annoyed by it, do you? So I've been doing some stuff recently to pimp my own stuff, or push my own stuff, I shouldn't say that word, sorry. Of using RSpec and unit tests to do Nmap output to check our own stuff. This has been done before. Gareth Rushgrave and James Wickett have lots of talks on these. I suggest everyone just goes read them. Nick Galbraith has also done a good one on DevOps security, and he's smarter than me, so go and read that. Basically, I'm just go and look at all these other people's talks on like how you introduce security and DevOps into your CI workflow. And in many ways, security isn't any different. You want to get, you want unit tests in early. No one wants to write unit tests after everything is done, because that doesn't work. You're like, oh yeah, I wrote 4 unit tests. It neatly fits the 3 cases I now thought of 6 months after I wrote the code. Because no one's ever done that, right? Developers, I've met you. Same with the security. You're like, oh yeah, I wrote all the code. Now I better sprinkle a security on it. Like, yeah, that'll work really well. And like unit tests are a great way of doing that. So unit tests for, are you doing TLS without verification? You can just grep the source code as it's checked in of, are you doing SSL no verify? And if you are, I will find you. Each and every one of you, stop doing that. SSL certificates are cheap. Security generally needs to stop saying no unless it's to turning off SSL verification, in which case I will keep saying stop turning off SSL verification. So we've had things where we've had things where traditionally in previous lives I would have gone, yeah, you can't do that. That's really insecure. And occasionally things like that still pop up. So what instead we do is, sure, we do that, but how about we just put loads of logging and instrumentation, maybe 2FA it, so that you have to have more trust in who's logging into it. And that way you're not blocking your business, because if you're employed, the odds are you're employed to help your company, not to just go, nope, shouldn't work, everything's secure. Nope. No one touches anything, nothing gets broken into. So it's enabling people in your organization to go and do their jobs, but doing it in the most secure way that still enables them to do their jobs, rather than just stopping everyone doing their job. So I would say, and this is something the security industry doesn't do very well, which the DevOps world is fantastic, post-DevOps world is fantastic at, is humility. The ability to go say you're wrong and accept that you're wrong and learn from that, because that's how you learn. You don't learn by being right all the time. As soon as you have devs coming to you with a security advisory that they found and or have already patched the thing of the security advisory they found before you know of the security advisory, that's when you start high-fiving people and going, woohoo. And we've had that, thanks YAML in Rails. That was a great week. And that's great. But you only get there by having an approachable security department that people want to talk to and work with. So yeah, this is where we hug it out. Security, learning that people are the more important thing. That's why we're all here, because we care about people. If we wanted to care about tools, we'd be at a very different conference. And security is never going to be 100%. I'm very guilty of this, thinking that it has to be 100%. But there are gradients of how secure you are. Like, I work for a yarn website. We're not being attacked by the people who are going after, like, defense contractors. It's slightly different. We have varying degrees of it. And so logging and access control and instrumentation is way more useful for us than locking everything down so no one can do everything, because then we wouldn't be able to give all the other talks on continuous delivery and falling asleep in onesies at velocity. So rather than finish with a "we are hiring" slide, I thought I'd end with the how can security as an industry and in your organization work better with you? What would you want from them? How can they make your world better rather than them, them just hushing your buzz all the time with, you can't do that. That's pretty much it. I finished on time. You can go to lunch. Someone can ask a really quick question. I don't have the mic. It's not my call.
So directly to your final question there, I would say the way security can work better with us is to offer tools that integrate into automated continuous integration environments a lot better.
Yep. And Gareth and Wicket's presentation and tutorial at Velocity, which is all online and linked in these slides that I will paste on the internet, have a whole thing on that.
Cool.
Yes, a question I can answer.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi. So great talk, very information rich. I want to go back to the example you gave where Logstash was telling you that there had been a bunch of failed password attempts.
Yep.
I mean, that's good to know, I suppose, but that's sort of noisy, right? That's like there's always going to be some Brazilian or Chinese IP address that's trying fake passwords or credit card numbers or trying to log into your servers. And if they're failing to do that, then like everything's okay, right? So are there any more specific things that you can get out of Logstash that tell you this is something that you can and should act on now?
Yeah, so an example we've had recently, it's a good question because that isn't a great example, we have one for when capture rates get really high, of like people logging in with the wrong password and generating captures, which like if you get your password wrong too many times, you have to prove you're a script because no one can do captures anymore, but whatever. It's now easier to do them as a script than a human, so that's a well done technology. But what that meant was the only time that's ever going to happen, because no one will get that many captures wrong, is if a bot's doing it. Then we found this very high-profile bot that was attacking us and probably some other companies. And if we just had, like, someone got their password wrong a bunch, that wouldn't be it. But we were then able to go and explore what they were doing and block them at a higher point in our stack. And so we weren't getting those. But yeah, it was reasonably noisy. Like, a lot of this is fine-tuning thresholds of, like, if we just got an alert every time someone got their password wrong with 2 million users, that wouldn't be ace. But if, like, some one account gets their password wrong 100 times, then, like, no one has, who has ever typed their password wrong in 100 times before going, nope, you just, so it's obviously, yeah, fine-tuning. We have periods of like, yep, this is definitely too loud an alert. I want my email back, hold down D, and then sometimes we have some alerts that if they ever go off, it's all hands on deck because this thing should never happen. So, does that answer?
Okay, so now to the part that I'm sure most of you want. So I'm going to address the two sections separately, but before that, I'm going to address everyone. So we're going to have, yes.